So what exactly is C Street, and what is its role in the lives of Senators Ensign and Coburn and in the ongoing life of this scandal? Well, joining us now is Jeff Sharlet. He's a contributing editor at Harper's Magazine, and he's author of the book, The Family, The Secret Fundamentalism at the Heart of American Power. It's just out in paperback and is highly recommended by me personally. As part of the research for the book, Jeff lived among the family and saw many of its actions firsthand. Mr. Sharlet, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
What is C Street? I know it's a house on C Street in Washington. How is it part of the family?
Well, the C Street house is actually, it's a former convent. Now it's registered as a church, and it's run by the family and used by them to provide housing for 6 to 8 congressmen at any given time, and to provide spiritual counsel to these congressmen, which all sounds fine so far. What makes it a little bit different than other Christian conservative organizations? Two things. You said that it's secretive. Indeed, the leader of the group describes it. He says, the more invisible you can make your organization, the more influence it will have. And the other thing is the nature of the influence they want to have. I got to sit in on one of these spiritual counseling sessions between the leader of the family and Congressman Todd Tiahrt when I visited the C Street house. I actually met Senator Ensign there. As the leader of the family was counseling Congressman Tiahrt, who had this very standard bill of issues related to the Christian right, and he said, you've got to have a bigger vision of what we're talking about here. He called it Jesus plus nothing, and he said it's a sort of a totalitarian idea of Christianity. And he gave as examples men who he believed understood the way power should be wielded. He actually gave as examples Hitler, Pol Pot, Osama bin Laden, and he said it's a sort of a totalitarian idea of Christianity. And he gave as examples men who he believed understood the way power should be wielded. He actually gave as examples Hitler, Pol Pot, Osama bin Laden, and Lenin. And he said it's a sort of a totalitarian idea of Christianity. And he gave as examples men who he believed understood the way power should be wielded. He actually gave as examples Hitler, Pol Pot, Osama bin Laden, and Lenin.
Wow. When I read your book, The Family, when it first came out in hardback, Jeff, my notes on, I write notes in the flyleaf about what I was thinking about it, and my notes about it, I went back and looked, were that it was essentially to promote, it saw its role as promoting American power worldwide, unfettered capitalism, no unions, no programs to help poor people, all with this idea that godly, powerful, rich men should get as many resources as possible personally, and they should just privately help everyone else. That was the impression that I was left with. Was I close?
That's dead on the money. The Family Begin, it's the oldest Christian conservative organization in Washington, and it goes back 70 years when the founder believed that God gave him a new revelation, saying that Christianity had gotten it wrong for 2,000 years, and that what most people think of as Christianity as being about, helping the weak and the poor and the meek and the down and out. He believes God came to him one night in April 1935 and said, what Christianity should really be about is building more power for the already powerful. And that these powerful men who are chosen by God can then, if they want to, dispense blessings to the rest of us through kind of trickle-down fundamentalism.
Well, do you see a connection between that larger sort of power theology and the fact that neither John Ensign nor Mark Sanford, for that matter, who's also affiliated with the group, aren't quitting despite these scandals? Is there something about this type of theology that tells these guys, hey, don't worry about the affair, big picture, you're good, stay where you are, it's important for you to stay in power?
Yeah, no, I think actually Governor Sanford made it very clear when he cited King David as an example of the reason why he wasn't going to be resigning office. And that just struck a bell with me because the King David story is a core teaching of the family. When I first heard it, I was living with the family. One of the leaders of the family was explaining why King David was important. And he says it's not because he's a good man, it was because he was a bad man. He seduced another man's wife, he actually had the husband murdered, and he wanted to explain why this was a model. And he says to one of the men in the group, he says, suppose I heard you rape 3 little girls, what would I think of you? And this guy, being a human being, says, you would think I was a monster. Well, the leader of the family says, no, not at all, because you're chosen by God for leadership, and so the normal rules don't apply. accountability is a man might bring to the group, for instance, the fact that he is having an affair with another woman, or the fact that he is perhaps corrupt in some way, and so on. And these guys are going to deal with it internally. And very much behind closed doors, the leader of the group actually once said, what we do is, he uses pretentious Latin phrase, beyond the din of the vox populi. What he means is beyond the voice of the people.
Jeff Sharlet is a contributing editor at Harper's Magazine. He's author of the book, The Family. And if you think this has incredible implications for domestic politics and hypocrisy and affairs, wait till you read about third world dictators and how these guys empower them. It's an incredible story, and you did incredible work on it. Jeff, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Every American's faith is his or her own business. It's our constitutional inheritance as Americans, that there's no religious test for public office, there's no official religion in this country, and every American has a right to believe or not believe, to worship or not worship, or as he or she sees fit. Religion is a private matter in this country. And religion is the organizing principle of many, many powerful interests in the United States, including this one very connected, sworn to secrecy, ministry only to the powerful that has had a key role in how two major Republican sex scandals have unspooled this summer, that has a theology of power that is poorly understood and cites Hitler a lot, and that currently houses at least 7 members of Congress in what it calls a church. Joining us now once again is Jeff Sharlet, who lived among this group as part of the research for his book, The Family, The Secret Fundamentalism at the Heart of American Power, which is now out in paperback. Jeff, thanks very much for coming back on the show tonight. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me back.
I realized when we finished our interview last night there were more questions about the connection between this theology and these politics that I really wanted to ask you. And when I asked you last night how a group like The Family could essentially sanction John Ensign putting his mistress's son on the Republican Party payroll, you said essentially that this group would be solely focused on looking out for John Ensign, dealing with it internally. Well, it now seems like a big part of the way Ensign responded to the scandal was by spreading a lot of money around. So I wanted to ask you to talk to me a little bit about wealth and financial power and how that fits into the theology of this group.
Well, to understand the family's approach to wealth, it's a good place to start is their own label for themselves. They like to call themselves the Christian mafia at times. And they mean this in the sense of money moving kind of quietly behind the scenes. As David Coe, one of the leaders of the group, the son of the man we just saw, and also John Ensign's spiritual counselor, we now know, as David Coe explained it to me a few years ago, if money moves around behind the scenes through what they call the man-to-man financial method, then we are able to sort of maintain this veneer of privacy. And that this is very important because when you're dealing with members of the family, these guys have been chosen by God for leadership. And what the family is going to do is in some ways almost play the role of consigliere, as fixers for these guys. So when I heard about the Ensign money, that makes sense as a kind of thing that they might be comfortable with. But you've got to pull it out into sort of a broader picture. Doug Coe, the leader of the group, has said, he says, I loan or give money to all sorts of people, or I have my friends do so. Now, Coe takes no salary many years. All the money is sort of moving through this man method. And when you apply that overseas, as they do, you start to see what the idea of this is. They believe in something called biblical capitalism. And biblical capitalism is the way they're going to bring the gospel to the already powerful. Where the money goes, they believe God goes.
So biblical capitalism, this idea of the man-to-man financial method, which is one of the more awkward terms of a summer full of awkward terms, that it's not just part of the way that they exert power. That is part of their theology. That's part of the way they understand how they are, their version of Christianity, at least.
Absolutely, yeah. It is a theological position.